Hello and welcome to the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Today we're talking all about streaming for a cause. So how can you use video and live streaming and social media to promote your cause and build awareness and foster some community online. So we're going to be talking about that today, and also talking about a little thing called Cute Avalanche, which if you don't know about, you will certainly learn about as we progress. So that's still to come today. We are going out live to all the various places, so make sure you say hi if you're watching live in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And Sam, how are you going? How's your week been?
Good. It's a busy week because we moved on from my birthday to my daughter's birthday. It's her 10th, so pretty big, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So we had a lot of house cleaning and building new chairs and things like that. Speaking of Cute Avalanche, for anyone who's following our progress on that whole front, we passed 3,000 watch time hours on our quest to 4,000. I think the last tally was 3,300. So we're getting there. I think 2 to 3 weeks we'll hit 4,000. How's everything with
Nice.
you, John?
Everything's and hi to CG, by the way. Thanks for joining us. Everything's going reasonably okay. I had a bit of a rant to Sam before about getting older and just the aches and the pains of every part of my body being in front of this computer so often. But otherwise, I'm doing okay. And it's funny. I'm sure we've actually spoken a little bit about this in the past, but I have a lot of skills, but assembling furniture definitely isn't one of those. I will go to the ends of the earth to avoid doing that. So, I mean, props for having a go at that IKEA furniture. So today we're sort of talking about streaming for a cause, and we will be talking about Cute Avalanche, and as well as an example and a great case study because that Sam's been working on for years. But rather than me talk about it, Sam, maybe you can explain some of the origins of Cute Avalanche and what it is and what you guys do.
Sure. Yeah. Cute Avalanche is kind of a conglomeration of interests. My wife wanted to get into fostering cats and asked if I was okay with that. And I was like, yes, as long as I can live stream it and put it on the internet. So she agreed, and we've been fostering cats and streaming it ever since, which is about 2017, 6 years. We've fostered over 155 cats and kittens. In the past couple of years, we kind of focused on kittens under 8 weeks old, which are like bottle babies and need a lot of attention and things like that. We are volunteers through Kitten Rescue Los Angeles. Yeah, everything's 24/7 on our Twitch channel, but we also now typically foster more than one litter, so they have to be in separate rooms. So now we have a YouTube channel as well. I have to admit the Twitch channel has a better setup, and I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that as we go on with today's show. But that's basically it. We're a family foster organization. We ourselves, just to be clear, are not a nonprofit. Kitten Rescue is the nonprofit in the arrangement. We volunteer through them. They cover all of the sort of medical bills and things like that, microchips and vaccinations and spay and neuter surgeries. We cover all the costs for food and litter and toys and nutrients and things like that, the fun stuff.
Nice. So I guess it's obviously you sort of come from this video and live streaming background first and foremost, but I guess what would you sort of tell people that maybe have a cause or are doing some sort of fundraising and are looking at social media and video and live streaming, and how might they be useful? Why could they sort of improve or help with supporting that cause?
Sure. I mean, I think, first and foremost, you've got this face. You've got whoever it is doing the talking to be like the face of that cause, of that particular mission, whatever that goal is. And it's, the ability to sort of make that human interaction of like eye to eye, relatively contact, as opposed to eye to text on Twitter contact, which is bound for trouble. You also have this sort of immediate sense of interaction with things like live streaming, where people can come in and directly ask you questions, and you can be able to answer those without having a lot of back and forth on Twitter or whatever other social platform that is not video based. where you're limited to characters, you could talk like I am for, forever about one particular thing. You don't lose a lot of confusion to tone deaf sarcasm and things like that. So I think it's the next best thing to going door to door and being like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Actually, it's probably better than that because I can address 1,000 people instead of one person.
It's sort of that one to many relationship
Yeah.
rather than sort of one on one. And I guess the other thing too is it's really useful in terms of actually showing the work and telling the story of the
Yeah.
work, because I think sometimes, if you are donating to a charity and it's not clear how your donation is being used, or you may be less inclined to want to support that. And I guess the
Yeah.
other thing is too, let's be real. You're working with kittens.
Yeah.
Kittens are adorable. That's not really a hard sell, I don't think. But the fact that you show people when you receive these kittens and you let people know their names and their backstories and what they're up to, and you really get a good sense of each kitten's personality. It's I think a lot of the times, when you talk in general terms, it can be quite abstract, and I think when you really start putting faces and names to things, whether they're human or feline or otherwise,
Yeah.
I think that can be really, really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our particular instance, uh, having the Cosby cats is, something that the internet is happy to oblige. Um, but I think the same thing goes for whatever that cause is. It's not limited to cats are the one of the best possible things you can put on the internet. But hey, if you've got an Indiegogo and you're trying to raise money for hospital bills, this is still good.
Absolutely. So I guess, we this is obviously the video and live streaming show, so we'll focus more on the live video and the recorded video. But I am curious, sort of in more general terms, like how is Cute Avalanche using social media, and what do you find is working well?
Yeah, I mean, we're on a majority of the big platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We use Discord and the YouTube community as well, and TikTok, all of that stuff. Um, what I think works best for us so far has really been like the vertical videos. Um, and it's vertical videos that tell those stories of who these cats are, what's happening in their lives. Like, they're going to the vet today, they had an emergency medical thing, whatever it is. Here's the new cats, meet these cats, here's their name. Things like that. uh, some of the like more trendy meme time kind of stuff works pretty well as also. um, and then yeah, as far as like the more sort of boilerplate standard social media stuff of just like, here's a bunch of text or here's a picture and an image, I've actually felt that even though it's not getting as many impressions, our YouTube community page gets a better interaction per impression rate. So, like, especially when we do like polls or images, I see a lot more consistent like thumbs ups and reactions to those polls. Whereas if I do those on Twitter, it's like two people. Um, so yeah, I think those are the things that have worked best for us currently.
And I guess that's an interesting point you make there. And I guess there are certain platforms that people are probably already organically on, and some platforms that might be a harder sell, because I've got a Twitch account. I barely use my Twitch account, although we are going live on the show there at the moment. But it's kind of a less natural place for me to hang out than say YouTube. And I know that you do a lot on Twitch
Yes.
and some on YouTube, and at the moment, I believe you have streams on both of those, but
Yeah.
that's not necessarily always the case. So I'm sort of curious. Like, I get the sense you have this really tight knit community on Twitch, but to me, it still feels like a slightly niche area of the world. So I guess I'm just curious how you think about that, and what you find, what your experience is there.
Sure. Well, when we got started with the live streaming aspect of things, which straight out early on, it was like literally we had an old phone doing Facebook Live through the mobile app, which was not a great experience. But eventually, I found Mob Crush and multicasting. And we branched out. We put it on every possible platform, and we early on found Mixer after the early on of Facebook, and actually grew our community there. And then Mixer went away a little while ago, and we scrambled. We went back to just kind of a broad net of like what's happening, who's watching where, and it actually looked like for a while we were gonna like double down on D Live, but then out of nowhere, Twitch just kind of took off, and we started to see the followers coming in and all of that. And at a certain point, we hit the requirements to be affiliates on Twitch. And we had a big conversation between Amanda and myself and ourselves and our varied audiences who were all over the place, and ultimately decided that we would just stop the multicast and focus on Twitch because we were getting such a good amount of traffic there, but also we could now monetize and get subscription and ad revenue, which worked out pretty well for us. I think a lot of people look at Twitch and think this is a place for gamers, and that's about it. And there's a lot of gamers there, but the number one vertical on Twitch is just chatting. It is just people existing with other people and having communication or conversations. And so I think a lot of what made us stand out, because we're not the only cat cam or animal cam there, was the fact that we do like 3 or sometimes more chats a week with our audience. And I try and stay very active in the chat. Some months are easier than others, but that is, how we kind of communicate with our core audience. And yeah, for the most part, the people that we do have in our community are Twitch people. Like that is their number one stop. Like I've often been like, what if we do a stream on Instagram? And they're like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, but there's other people. So we'll see.
I guess I'm really fascinated about that at the moment because it's always in the back of my mind, like, do we have a single destination and just push everybody towards that one destination, or do we use the joy of multicasting and just go out to where people may feel more comfortable and use some of the tools that we have in terms of combining the chat with chatbots and that kind of thing. But I guess, and again, this really feels like my biases, but I kind of feel like Twitch and Discord, and I know there's a Discord community, we'll talk about that in a second, they just feel like much nerdier places than, even Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And it's one of those things that always lives in the back of my mind, is like, how niche do we go? Who do we actually appeal to? And I guess I just want to say hi to Walter Strong the third, who's joining us in the chat. It's great to have your company. I guess, before we continue, like, and I know a lot of the community members are people that you know personally, but I guess if you were to sort of describe to maybe a potential sponsor who these people are for Cute Avalanche specifically, like what kind of things do they value? And yeah, I guess that's, I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that community. I do sort of have, I dabble in there occasionally, but obviously I'm not as embedded in that as you are.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they're cat lovers, but beyond that, they are gamers, e-gamers, and things like that. A lot of them are people who there's a good mix of people who do have cats and people who can't have cats because either they're allergic or they're renting and they can't have cats, or some similar reason to those. And it's hard to get numbers on that, but that seems to be pretty consistent. Like it's a good split of the two. It's it's really just cat lovers, and also a lot of them tend to play games because it is Twitch, and we get like a minor subset of people that do foster and come in and ask us questions about fostering. We seem to have a pretty good audience that is people who suffer from invisible disabilities and things of that nature as well. So yeah, I think that kind of kind of wraps up who our core audiences are. And then there's Janine.
And I should say, Janine, I actually said nerdier, so
Yes.
NERD,
Yes.
not dirtier. Just want to clarify that. So, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I apologize. It's probably my Australian accent, but nerdier,
Oh,
yes.
it's
I might
okay.
even write that in the chat. I don't think it'll go everywhere, but I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, awesome. So this is the video live streaming show. Today we're talking all about streaming for a cause. So how can people who are operating non-profits or
Mhm.
fundraising or charitable causes, how they can actually work with video and live streaming. So I guess, like Sam, I did sort of mention Discord earlier, and again, I think we've done an entire show on Discord
Yeah.
specifically. But again, maybe just briefly, if we can speak to how you're using that for Cute Avalanche specifically, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, so Discord is like a really good community tool. It's a lot more niche, as you said, and it has a lot sort of it's got a harder barrier of entry. So it's really like the diehard people who A, like to use Discord, or B, really like what you're doing and want to join in on that. It can be a bit of a tackle, like something to tackle to like really learn the first few times. And even once you're in there, you're like, but why am I because it's essentially like a combination of old school forums and like a chat tool. It's just sort of a different way of looking at those things. So the way we use it, we have a bunch of different channels within our server, and we have probably too many. We have a bunch that are just places to drop pictures and memes and things like that. So it's just a place to keep it fun and light and happy. And then there's different channels to ask particular questions. We have different areas when we do different events every year. So we have different channels that we hide until that event, and then they come up and you'll see that. So if we do like the St. Patrick's Day game, it'll do like a daily top 10 of everyone's placement and things like that. Um, there's places to report technical issues with the live stream, and there's sort of a hidden place for moderators to chat. We have subscription only channels for like our Patreon members who can chat. That one doesn't really get used because it's a very small subset of people and they just chat wherever at this point, but maybe one day. So yeah, it's really does have a lot of sort of customization to it. I think the thing with Discord is, we always talk about not spreading yourself too thin, and that is one of those things that really demands a lot of attention. You're not just adding like a new social media platform to your mix at that point. It is a total community tool. So, if you're going to go into a Discord, you're going to need help. Like, I would not suggest anyone who's got under 1,000 followers bothering with Discord. Set it up, sure, put it out there, but I wouldn't even push people to it until like you have this community that is just so busy that they're like, "Hey, do you have a Discord?" And they're like, "Yes."
Sure. Walter Strong has a great question, and I'm curious to see. It's a rather long question. I'm curious to see how this appears on Restream. There we go.
Yeah.
And it's a great question, and I know you can speak about this specifically, Sam. And I'm really thankful to Walter for bringing this up because it actually wasn't on my list. But so Walter writes, when you are live streaming for a cause, how would you how would a live stream do around a certain month for their cause? So I guess, we're talking about different themed fundraisers and events and things to build awareness. And I know you have quite a few of those. So if you can tell us
Sure.
about
So
those.
I hope I'm answering this in the right vein. So yeah, if you're specifically doing like a solid month, like it's just May, right? There's a variety of tools that you can use, chatbots and stuff that'll sort of have these timers and cutoffs, so you can automate some of this kind of thing. We are currently doing a fundraiser that is not monetary, that is Box Day, and it is, several weeks. It's been running for about a month. It will have been running for about a month, but it's in the splits. So it went from mid to mid. Um, and we have like various commands that work during this period of time. So if somebody goes into our Twitch chat, types !box day, it'll reply with that command. You can do something like set up a Tiltify, which is it's similar to like a GoFundMe, but it is specifically a fundraising tool that has live stream overlays to it. So you can have your Tiltify going, and up top here or bottom, wherever you want, you can have that sort of thermometer goal progress bar happening. And that straight out can have like a start date and an end date. So when that's done, it just, drops off screen or whatever. I hope that answers the question. I mean, if there's I'm sure there's more.
It'd be great to hear more from Walter about that. But I guess I was sort of thinking more in terms of the fact that you do things around Valentine's Day and the Super Bowl and Cinco de Mayo or Cinco de Meow, as you put it.
Yes, de Meow. That's right.
So I guess, again, whether that was the heart of Walter's question. I mean, I'd love to hear more about that as well. So
no, I think that makes sense. I think, the Super Bowl and our Catmas events are pretty much the two closest to fundraising. So with Catmas, because Super Bowl is kind of like a one-day event, but we lead into it. With Catmas, it is the entirety of December. We even start a little earlier. But our entire stream is decked out in sort of a Christmas mortis. We have these about 90 circles on screen that kind of frame the video, which are just generic clip art Christmas ornaments. But every time somebody makes a donation, it fills in that ornament with their Twitch user avatar. And then all of that sort of information is presented on stream, like how you can do that. And there's commands to like get you to the right, donation portal or whatnot. So yeah, I think that gives you a little. And then, oh boy, I did the thing. Okay. This hand is the only hand I'll gesticulate with. Anyway, but yeah, and then I think another big part of fundraising for a cause or a charity or anything like that, and using live streaming as that tool, is to create that sort of schedule of whether it's public or just for your own use of these different milestone points. So, not everyone's going to be a 24/7 live streamer, obviously, but you want to have those streams where you come in and give the progress report, or if something big is going to happen, we're going to hit $1,000. So we're going to do a stream for whenever that happens. You definitely want to schedule those things out within that month window and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if there's any more questions along those lines, please let me know.
Sure. And I guess there's one thing that you spoke about in terms of the Christmas event, and I think it's worthwhile us really articulating is that a couple of things, I suppose. One is actually being invested in the process, and you at that point, you're not just a bystander who's watching. You're actually part of the process of raising these kittens and making sure that they have homes and that they're being well fed.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing too is, finding interesting and fun ways to actually acknowledge people by name or username, whatever that happens to be, depending on the platform and the relationship you have with that audience. And I know there are certainly people in the chat that are very much a part of the Cute Avalanche community, and if they're comfortable, I'd love to hear a little bit about what they like about it and what has drawn them to that community. But I guess in terms of video specifically, and we'll get to live streaming. We'll get back to live stream in a moment because there are certain things I really want to unpack in terms of Twitch and YouTube specifically. But you sort of mentioned that the short form vertical videos have been working quite well. So I guess what have you been finding has been working well, and how do you use that?
Sure. I mean, I think with what we're doing, the things that work best are directly related to the cats that we do have, and it is like story related, things like that. I mean, within that, you can still do memes and have those be story related. Uh, a lot of, I think, our more popular videos pose like a short question, like, what would you name this cat? Things like that. Like, I've done this particular video 3 or 4 times, and I got to do more. We have so many cats. I don't know why I don't just immediately have that template ready to go for every single cat. But yeah, that gets a lot of responses. Or you do like a sort of a twist on it, like the last thing you ate is the name of this cat. That got a lot of responses. It's memey, it's trendy, and it goes into that whole thing. Then within the description, you can give like a little more of like, this is one of our fosters, so they have a like sort of relevance to that. But within that, we also get a good response from the less funny side of things, of like, it's a bittersweet goodbye because this cat's getting adopted. So yeah, I think it's those two sort of diametric, polarized sort of things there. Sorry, I was reading Janine's thing at the same time as trying to talk, but okay.
Let's have a chat about it. I'm not actually familiar with this particular example, but Janine's sort of saying that there have been some radical examples. So there's a monkey foundation where apparently volunteers shaved their entire head. I guess even Walter's example earlier of the ALS, the famous ice bucket challenge that everybody was all about at the time. So, I mean, there are often trends that might be worth exploring. And again, it's funny. I'm so about the evergreen content. I try to avoid the trends. That's just me. That's just who I am. But I think sometimes they can be useful in terms of grabbing a short burst of attention.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at doing something specifically for like a fundraising mission, like, you're gonna have to play into those sort of shorter lived moments. And I think both of those examples are great. I think those work better as video as opposed to live stream. I mean, possibly you do it both, but I do think to really sensationalize those accurately, you're going to want that to be like some amount of post production on there and do it as a video. I've literally seen, we do every year, basically a giant Zoom call that is a fundraising event for my daughter's school. Although I think they stopped doing that now that the COVID restrictions are gone. But for the past few years, they were doing it. And if they met their goal, the host would jump into like a pool, or they did something similar to the ice bucket challenge last time, but I think it was slime, like Nickelodeon style slime. And those are fine in that moment because it's such a small community to do it as a live stream, because the quality was very bad. It was a live Zoom, and I think they were outside in both examples. One of them was nighttime, one of them was like almost nighttime, so it wasn't great. So I think with that kind of thing, unless you can really control that production quality for a live stream, do it after the fact as a video. But within that, we were talking about Catmas and the ornaments. One of the other things that sort of came up after the fact, as we had already started, was we had a resident artist, Insomnia Doodles, who does a lot of our graphics and stuff like that. And she had made this whole interactive thing, which was totally a side note to the Catmas fundraising thing. It was just a fun thing to do, where we had this sort of cat tree, like literally a Christmas tree with a cat face that had lights and tinsel, and you could change the color of the lights, color of the tinsel. You could put different things on top of it, like a star or a hat or one of our cats, because we have our own cats, so they're at the top. And she was like, I could do, for a $25 donation, somebody else's cat. So like halfway through this fundraiser, we launched that. So that's kind of along those lines. It doesn't have quite the same payoff as the ice bucket challenge and like the sort of, dunk seat, if you will, effect. but I think it does bring people in, with that more personalized, this is a thing I did and I can put this on the tree whenever I want. So I think there's, two sides to that, of two, like elements you can find where it's, we hit a milestone and we do a goofy thing, or you get a tote bag, it's kind of that old school, like, I don't know, they don't have PBS fundraisers down in Australia, I'm sure, but for the Americans, it's an old school PBS fundraiser kind of style thing of like, you get a tote bag.
Yep. I mean, I guess that is, if you're associated with a cause that you really care about, you kind of want people to know about that. You want to spread the good work and the good word, and often merchandise is a really useful way of doing that. And I know, I've certainly seen some of the shirt designs and different things that Cute Avalanche has. So I mean, that's another great opportunity. I guess, and again, maybe this is a subject for a whole other show, but I'm just curious, like, do you have any general thoughts on how to tell a good short story in like 59 seconds or less?
59 seconds or less. I mean...
Or are people even on those platforms
sure.
looking for that kind of level? Maybe they are just looking for the slime or
so.
the ice.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to, what is the problem? How are we going to fix it? And what's the result? I think that's it. That's all you need for a story, of any length. That's a 7-second video. Like, what's the problem? There's too many cats in shelters being killed. How are we going to fix it? We're going to foster them. We can't do it with how much money we have. So you can help us by donating. And if we hit, well, actually, you can help us by sending us boxes off our wish list. And whatever the amount of boxes is, we're going to turn that into a giant cat castle. That's it. That's the story, right?
Absolutely. And I guess, like, in some ways, the work you do is confined to a relatively specific geographic part of the world. But, the ability for people to watch on and be invested in that and support you, it can certainly come from anywhere in the world. So I think that's a good thing, because I think sometimes, especially with local causes or local businesses, like, sometimes the idea of appealing to the entire internet is they can't see the benefit of that. And I think in some ways that's probably a fair observation, depending on the type of operation they are. But I mean, in your case, there's a very concrete way that people can support you. And, even if they're not giving you money or sending you things, the ability to spread the word, share the links to the things, to even to thumbs up, like little things like that, we kind of, it's very easy to take those for granted, but content creators really, really do appreciate that sort of stuff. So, if and I know that in some parts for some of the world and for some people, their economic circumstances have changed recently. So, I mean, don't feel bad about that, of course. But, just keep in mind that there are ways of supporting that aren't necessarily financial.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a whole thing on our website somewhere. I don't remember where, but it's like, if you can't afford $1, and that's fine. All we ask for, is $1 is great. If you can't do that, there's a variety of ways that you can help us that are completely virtual. You don't even have to show up. Like, you can be a virtual foster. You can help take care of things in other ways. We have people that, like Janine, who help moderate our Twitch and our Discord. People who just comment on videos because they're there and thumbs them up. Or right now we're doing that whole effort to get our YouTube to monetization requirements. And there are people that are just leaving the live stream up, even if they're not there, just to get those watch time hours. And things like that are very helpful for your content creators.
Absolutely, and that feels like a great segue to talk about live streaming specifically. And we've alluded to the fact that there's some stuff going on Twitch and there's some stuff going on YouTube. So I guess, generally speaking, how do you approach those destinations?
Wait, say that one more time.
Okay. I'm going to assume that you were distracted by the chat.
Yes.
Okay, no worries. All right, so let's talk about live streaming. Obviously, you're doing stuff on Twitch and YouTube. So I'm just curious, like, how And again, we've mentioned that you've been live streaming for a billion years, much longer than Cute Avalanche has been
Yes.
around. So I guess it's probably a very natural thing for you. But how did you? And you mentioned sort of briefly how you decided to put most of those eggs in the Twitch basket. But I'm just curious, like, how do you find that live streaming is working for Cute Avalanche?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our main hub right now. It is the thing that I'm putting the most focus on, although I'm spreading out a little bit and putting, a few eggs in the YouTube basket and a few other things to try and grow parallel platforms, but it is our home base. Twitch is, and I think will always be where we dedicate the most amount of time. It's always going to be the main 24/7 stream. It's going to have the most other things, just by the nature of how long Twitch has been around and how many sort of third party tools are out there. Um, and how much time I've put into those tools, I can't imagine shifting completely away from it at any time. Like we do a whole lot of interactive things and fun things similar to what I was talking about with Catmas. We do the Super Bowl, we do Super Bowl, excuse me, I don't want to get sued. St. Patrick's Day, we do a Halloween event, a Cinco de Meow event, and those are all things that I can't replicate outside of Twitch. Like no other platform has the sort of dashboard and chatbot support and API, access to replicate those things anywhere else. So yeah, it is our number one place to go.
Okay, I do have some follow up questions, but first, I think there's somebody in the chat you need to thank because they just took on board your
You.
suggestion that you were trying to get to
Yeah,
those watch hours on YouTube. So,
definitely. Thank you, Teresa.
okay, awesome. So and again, I keep using the word nerd and nerdier and not dirtier.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. I mean no offense when I say that. I think they're awesome tools, but I guess like I'll come back to YouTube, but I think it's worth unpacking some of the things that the chatbot integrations. Are
Yeah.
you still using the fancy camera for Twitch that you can actually redirect, or
Yes.
is yeah
Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, we'll talk tech for a second. We have 7+ cameras in our Twitch room, and I say 7+ because you can. So first off, you can switch between all of the cameras by just doing like there's a channel point reward. So it's a little button down at the sort of channel point area that says main. You can enter a number there, and it'll switch the camera that everyone's looking at. There's also a secondary camera called the PIP, the picture in a picture. You can do the same with that. And then camera 7 is a full pan tilt zoom, and you can actually type commands to like move it up or down or left or right or even zoom in and out. And then the sort of plus is camera 5 is actually a whole CCTV system, which is depending on how many we have plugged in, up to 4 other cameras that are within camera 5. So it's 5A, 5B, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that pan tilt zoom camera is it's actually controlled by 2 softwares. It has its own software that accepts hotkey commands, but then to get those commands from the Twitch chat to that software, we have to use our chat bot that then takes your like it'll say like left 2, and it'll go, all right, I now have to extrapolate that into a hotkey twice, and it'll send that off to the system, and there you go. That's how that works.
And and again, I don't want to get too nerdy because I know that's the place that Sam loves to live, and
Yep.
I get the feeling most of our audience probably aren't quite ready for that. But it is the PTZ or Z, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where you are in the world, are those point tilt zoom cameras. They're really interesting, and I think they are paired quite well for your use case. Especially if the kittens have free reign of the entire room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them might be hiding in one of those corners, and it's really great that through the use of the chatbots, they can actually redirect and sort of zoom in and see what's happening. So that's really cool. Big hello to Joe Serrano. Thank you for joining us.
Cool. Yeah, I will say that that particular PTZ camera is probably the cheapest PTZ camera you can find, and was sent to us by a member of our community, thankfully. You can actually have up to 4 of those plugged in theory. I haven't done it. We only have the one. So you can have up to 4 of those plugged in, and it should be able to pull up all of those feeds individually in OBS. If you go to the Cute Avalanche Twitch page, you can actually scroll down into our description to find out more about that particular camera if you're interested. And it does have a bunch of other really useful features for people who might just be making videos in general that are not cats. So it does actually have a small AI that like recognizes a certain amount of hand gestures to like track you or zoom in and out from just not, you don't have to be on the thing. You can just be like, whatever, pinching motions for those who can't see me. But it does also have a motion tracker for humans. Doesn't work on cats. They released another version after we got ours that apparently has a pet mode, but they have not updated our firmware to include that. So I'm shaking my fist at them.
And it's funny, I know we sort of talk a lot about, the perception of live streaming being predominantly about games. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti game streaming. I enjoy watching a lot of that stuff myself, but there are all kinds of ways in which you can use that, and it really does depend on what you're doing and what your goals are. And it's funny because for my purposes, I have one camera in a corner of a room pointing directly at me and like nothing else. So I mean, I'm very thankful that people can't point and tilt and zoom into other places of the space, because I'm very much confined to a very particular space. So, but that is really cool to know. So this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined by Sam Proof. Today we're talking all about streaming for a cause. So how you might like to use video and live streaming to support fundraising efforts, non-profits, just a cause of any kind. And I think I'm just going to answer this question. It's an interesting one from Joe. Let me just pop it up on the screen. So Sam's all about pizzas and kitty cats. So what are my favorite things? I mean, coffee. I don't exist without coffee. Is sort of my favorite thing, and I also love music. I've got I was going to say hundreds. I don't know if it's quite that many. I've got many CDs, and I still collect things on compact disc, which I know is really confusing for a lot of people of a certain age. But it is something that I do, and I haven't quite gone the vinyl route, but I do love my CDs. And I do have a bit of an eBay habit, so that's probably a whole other thing to discuss with my therapist, but we'll worry about that then. I guess getting back to our subject for today, though, there was something I was going to say and it's completely gone out of my head. Isn't live awesome? No, I guess, in terms of the live streaming, and obviously you mentioned that on Twitch, there are many sort of wildlife and pet cameras. And I think one of the things that you and Amanda do that is quite interesting is that you will sort of come in and address people in the chat directly from time to time. It's not just kittens all the time. So I'm curious, like, how did you decide to do that? And how do you find, that helps engage your community?
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that. Amanda just played the worst trick on me. Oh my God. Oh God.
And this, incidentally, is the joy of live streaming, because everything happens live and everything falls apart. But you've just got to roll with it. So,
God, I'm so sorry, John. Like, she just for reference, I am not this bad normally. We literally had this whole thing. It's like Amanda's got this big event at her school, and she had asked me to pick the kids up yesterday, and then today decided, because of the podcast, so instead she ruined the podcast, was that she would pick them up. And an hour and a half ago was like, hey, you got the kids right. And just now she decided to be like, you didn't get the kids? But she was joking. Okay, please continue. I'm so sorry.
And it's funny that I sort of mention her the moment she does that too.
Right.
So, I guess getting back to the heart of my question, though, is, as much as you live stream the cats, you also address the audience from time to time. Both you and Amanda together.
Yeah.
Often with a drink of choice. And I'm just really
That's true.
curious because I think that's one thing that probably differentiates Cute Avalanche from a lot of other pet cams and wildlife cameras, of which I'm sure there are many on Twitch. So
The
I'm just curious, like, how did you decide to do that, and how do you find that helps communicate with your audience?
Yeah, gosh, I'm trying to remember the inception of that whole thing. When we initially started, it really was just cats. And my only real involvement in the stream was in text form, which I was doing, uh, much to my employer's chagrin, I'm sure, during work hours. Like, it was a tab that I always had open, and I was constantly talking in there when I had a free minute. And at a certain point, I think it had really just been requested enough, and like, um, I think it was twofold, where it had been something that had been requested, and we were toying with the idea of like, I guess did we? I guess we started this back in Mixer. I think we were trying to push for like Mixer's affiliate requirements, and I think that worked into our strategy for doing that. Um, and then again with Twitch, we definitely put it out there for that as well. Um, and yeah, I think it is something that I'm very comfortable with. Amanda was not super into it at first and was like, why are we doing this? Is this really something that needs to happen? And now it is like part of our routine, so much so that like, if we don't do it, she's like, no, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of become, especially during the past few stay-at-home years, it is our social thing. Like, it is our, we're inviting you over for a beer kind of instance. It's much more than just like us reporting on this is what's happening with cats. No, this is what's happening with us. Like, cats are here and we have things to talk about with the cats, but it's our social time, you know.
Sure. And I do. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm not a huge Twitch user, but I do have the app on my phone, and I have caught a couple of those recent chats that you've done on the Cute Avalanche Twitch channel. So I mean, it's a great way of doing things, and I think generally speaking, like whether it's a cause or a business or a service or whatever, like people do like different touch points, and they do like having different pieces of content. And I think like anything you can do to sort of switch it up a little bit to keep it fresh, it can be quite useful. And I mean, obviously, I don't think most people watching are probably running 24-hour live streams in the way that you do, but certainly there are opportunities to sort of have, different shows or different segments, or, even just a different perspective, whether it's, one of those PTZ cameras or something else entirely. So I guess there are plenty of great ways to sort of reinterpret your content and share your message in that way. I guess obviously the work that you do does require the support of other people, and that's part of the reason why you do it in this public fashion. So I am sort of curious, and you have alluded to some of these already, but what are some of the options that people have in terms of supporting Cute Avalanche if they would like to?
Sure. And I'm going to answer this in just in general. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that we have done for fundraising that I think people can use for their own, depending on if they're just an individual or a nonprofit or anything like that. So, straight out on a sort of day-to-day basis, we ask, whenever we host one of our chats, or if you read any of our Twitch description, we ask for either people to go to our Amazon wish list, pick something off of that and send us that thing. First and foremost, that is really sort of our go-to, because we would rather that that the thing you are donating is for cats. We do ask for, that we have a donation link. You can send us money through PayPal or credit card, whatever, but there's no confusion there. This is kibble. That's going to cats. Like, we're not eating that. We're not using those things for other things. Like, I want, as much transparency about where these things go as possible. So having sort of that gateway of like, just cat stuff is here. Like, there have been times where we've done very specific fundraisers for tech things, or we do have some tech items on the wish list. So that is the thing you are sending. I don't want people to donate $25 and then be like, wait a minute, did you use this on a camera? No, that was used on food. Like, if you're donating money, it's going to food, it's going to litter, it's going to things for the cats. Like, that is, I think, our biggest MO. So yeah, you can do either of those, the Amazon wish list or the donate. You can go to our Twitch page and do !wishlist, !donate, and it'll give you the link, which it's a vanity URL that'll be like cuteavalanche.com/wishlist, and it'll take you right to the Amazon page. For specific fundraising events, we may have other things that we use. So a while ago, when we were really kind of starting out, and not a lot of options were obvious or out there, we did I think it was a GoFundMe. It was a GoFundMe, and it was just a page that existed. You could do the chat command to get the link. And then we just embedded the browser source onto OBS, and we just had a screen capture. No, it was a browser source, not a screen capture. And we just had that goal bar right there so you could see it. Wasn't the fanciest looking thing in the world, but it worked. We've done we did a fundraiser not for ourselves. We did it for Best Friends Animal Society last fall, and we used Tiltify with that. Tiltify is great. It gives you that OBS browser source. It's very customizable. It looks a lot better than just trying to embed the GoFundMe browser source. If I remember accurately, Tiltify, I can't remember. I think it actually works with the chatbot we have, so you can actually have it create donation alerts. So somebody donates to Tiltify and it pops on screen and it's like, Johnny donated $20, to Best Friends Animal Society. So that's really cool as well. You can do the same thing with just that sort of regular donation link that we have as well, does have a built-in alert that pops up. And we've done a few other non-stream based fundraisers that utilized a plugin on WordPress. It's either WP Give or Give. I think it's WP Give, or it's the other way around. And it's very similar to a GoFundMe, but it embeds into your own WordPress site, and you just run it that way, and it's paid through PayPal.
And I guess like all those integrations are interesting, but I think the thing that I keep hearing is that there's a lot of transparency there, and there's a lot of acknowledgement of things as they're happening. And people, I mean, before I jump to my next thought, one thing I was going to say earlier, when Sam and Amanda are actually addressing the chats from Twitch in person, they're not really in front of a computer, they're not typing. And I thought one of the really nice things was, given the support of the regulars that drop by, you often ask them to type commands into the chat to help other people get to resources, and they're happy to support you and do that, and that's really cool. So I guess we are sort of coming to the end of the hour, so let's talk about International Box Day. And again, it's another great example of people being able to get cat stuff and see it in action.
Yeah, so International Box Day is a love of cats and boxes, not to be confused with Boxing Day. So this is all about cats and boxes. This is our second annual Box Day, and what we are asking for, this happens June 19th. So what we're asking is people go to, again, our Amazon wish list first and foremost, and send us a box filled with stuff for cats. So pick something out of that, send us a box or more. We're going to stockpile all the boxes in the room, and then the weekend before June 19th, we do a big unboxing live on the stream. We write the name of whoever sent us that particular box on that box, and then around June 19th, we convert it into a large cat structure. Last year we did this, and we did a big cat castle, a feline fortress, and it's a lot of fun. The cats love it, and it helps us save more cats because we can only do so much with the income we have, which right now is very limited.
Sure. So that's a really great Great idea. So go and check it out. That's cuteavalanche.com /box day. You can learn more about that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat today. If you've got any questions, we've got a couple of minutes left to go. But I guess, Sam, outside of Cute Avalanche, if people want to sort of learn more about you and watch your videos and all that exciting stuff, where can they go?
Sure, yeah, you can find out more about me and find all my social links at samproof.tv. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You'll see me streaming on Twitch sporadically these days.
Cool. And if you want to catch up with anything I'm doing, you can head over to johnlacey.com. We've got a whole bunch of OBS tutorials and things over there and links to all the social places. So I'd love for you to join me. And I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. Shameless plugger time. So bear with me. Sorry.
Go for it. I mean, this whole stream was my plug.
I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator.
And the podcast is available in all the various places. In fact, if you find a place where you can't find my podcast, let me know and I'll make sure it gets listed there. But episode 4 is out already. So yeah, it's been really great doing that. And I guess thank you, Sam, for using Cute Avalanche today as sort of a bit of a case study, because I think, again, a lot of the times people aren't really sure how they might use live video and recorded video to support their business or their cause. So it's been really great to unpack that. Where did John go to high school? Okay, that is the weirdest question I've ever had on this show. But I went to a high school in Australia. So yeah,
there you go.
I don't want to divulge too much more than that.
Seems like too much. And yeah, Janine wasn't kidding. That was way off topic. That's fine. Speaking of podcasts, this show right here is also now available as a podcast on all of the places that you listen to podcasts. And again, if you can't find it on one that you want, let us know. But it is on all the major ones. And Cute Avalanche itself is gearing up to launch a podcast about cats. It'll be an interview series with other cat streamers and influencers and fosters and animal rescue people.
Nice. I'm just maybe you can refresh my memory. What is the podcast version of this show actually called?
I've got it
on my phone. I can have a look.
Yeah, it's Stream On, the video and live streaming podcast, and it's time for my lights to go off.
Okay, cool. All right, yes. I mean, there are lots of places to check out the things we're doing, but if you can, we'd love it if you could support Cute Avalanche. Whether it's Box Day, whether it's just watching some of the stream on YouTube or Twitch, that would be awesome. But thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll be back roughly the same time next week, and it would be really good to have your company there. Thank you for all the chat comments as well. That's been really awesome. And yeah, we'll talk to you again next week.